Hi, Karen, Rachel, Ryan, Jaya, Aaron, Micah, Stacy, Scott, Glenda, Margaret, Caitlin, Christy. Sita's slipping in here. Nice picture of you and your flute. Very cool. Stu, go. It's nice to see everybody. Hope everyone's been doing good. All right. Let's make some yoga happen. So you sit on something with your shins crossed, one foot underneath the other. Place the hands on the thighs, lift the spine up. Drop the shoulders away from the ears as you exhale. Lean your weight back into your hips. Flex the feet. Press your hands into your thighs again, lift the chest up. Exhale, draw the back ribs in, stretch the side rib forwards, lift all the front rib cage up. Let your chin stay lifted, let your eyes close. In my own experience and the experience that I've shared with many others, being their teacher or their fellow student or fellow teacher, I've heard a story that kind of seems to happen through that. Often the worry has been, am I showing up to class the best student I can be? And for me, that was really an emphasis on, am I showing up perfectly in shape? Or did I come in hungover? Or have I eaten badly? And things like that. In the yoga philosophy, if you read into it, they say there are these different types of students. Some less focused, some more focused. And I hear this story a lot, and what I've seen happen, and I know it's happened to myself, it's become a thing of, I have to. And I think if the yoga practice becomes a have to, where you feel like you have to show up, not because it improves your life, but you just have to. It's just like you have to do it, like you have to go to work, or you have to, take out the trash or whatever. It loses something, and that's where I think you really step down as a student. Not because you went out and partied last night and then you went to class slightly hungover, or you ate off the yoga diet, or you were lazy or tired or whatever. But the intent behind why you get into this and why you get onto your mat and what you bring to your mat is, I think, the most important thing. Are you coming into this work with honesty and some level of openness, but also joy in how you're doing it? That you're coming to this not because you have to, but because it's what you want. It's what you need. Right? We all have to do things in our life that we don't want or need to do, but some reason we have to do, right? We made a promise to somebody. Right? It's expected of us socially. But we do it, and we lose, and it loses something. It loses our connection to it. And yoga without our individual connection, it's just gymnastics or some kind of cardio workout. And we're not being a student, we're just being a performer. So my friends, as you start sitting here for the first couple minutes, are you showing up today because you had to? Or are you here because you want to? And when you think about your want to be here, what are the thoughts that come up for you in that want? What are you getting out of this that enriches your life? Or if you need to be here, if there's some part of you, a need that's being met, community, feeling your body, surrendering to something for an hour, that's a need. What are you getting from that, and how is it enriching your life? Because if the internet disconnected just in the next minute and the class somehow ended, and even just getting on your yoga mat and taking it on your own, give you something of what you need or want, and not just make it about how you had to be here. Because if you think about having to be here, you might not find the needs you want, the needs or the wants that enrich you. And you're not being, you're just performing. So enrich yourself as students, my friends, students not just of your teacher or of the practice of yoga, but of your own life and what you're trying to get out of this work. And take it with you off the mat into everything else you do. How you move around your house, the things you do, the food you cook. Maybe ask yourself the question, is this a need, a want, or is this something I have to do? A deep breath in, slow breath out. Bring the palms together at the chest, let the thumbs touch the sternum. Elbows come in along the rib cage. Chin still lifted, we'll om shortly 3 times and begin. Take a breath. Om. Deep breath. Om. Flex your feet. Om. Bow your head for a moment. Salute the essence of yoga inside yourself. Let your head rise. Your hands come into the lap. Your eyes open. So nice to see everybody. Hope everyone's doing good. All right. I've heard that my last few classes have been very intense. Right? So we're not going to take it necessarily easier today, but we'll go a little slower. We'll kind of get a little more into some of the look on her face, the horrified look. We'll slow it down a little and not make it as intense, so we have a nice relaxing class off into the weekend, at least relaxing by my standards. So go ahead and let's grab a block, stand in Tadasana, please. Move stuff off your mat. One block placed between your thighs, up near the groin as high as you can get. Narrow block, lengthways. There you go. Corgis are very happy that everyone's here. As you can see. So the block between your thighs, narrow the length of the block from the groin down. Squeeze the thighs into the block. Check your feet. Notice how one set of toes turns in, the other turns out. And just work Tadasana for a moment. And when you work Tadasana, let's just start a little bit of muscle group stuff. Start squeezing the calves towards each other, the thighs towards each other, and flex the buttocks. And feel each glute. Can each glute flex equally? So you're trying to bring some level of balance to the left and right side of your body. And then check in with yourself. I've only asked you to work your legs, but where else are you starting to force the pose? Right? What I said about being a student that performs is the student that just kind of like does what they think is the right thing and just totally doesn't listen. I didn't ask you to push your chest out or shrug your shoulders or push your spine out. Work your legs first. The place of a student in all the teachings and writing is the listener, and I'm eternally grateful to every student that ever comes to a class or logs in or listens to my ramblings. So take a moment and give yourself that opportunity to maybe get something what you want or need, not what you have to do in this pose. Because if you only do the things you think you have to do in this pose, you're just performing it. There may be something new in there. There's something unique about your body and your practice that may give you what you need or want when you're not doing what you have to do. So take a few moments just in the pose, and wherever you're already working things other than your legs, your glutes, or your calves, stop. Just take them out for a second. Tongue off the roof of your mouth. Relax the jaw, the inner ear, let go of all that tension stuff that you've been carrying. And you might start feeling like you can make easier adjustments. Stuff comes up like how your feet might not be even, and you might even them out, right? So start removing some of that stuff that you have to do, that you have to perform. So you listen to not just your external teacher, me, but your internal teacher. You might start to notice how one shoulder feels kind of off because you've sat crooked or slouched on your couch today. So take a breath, stretch both arms straight up now, still flexing the glutes, flexing the thighs, squeeze the calves. Bring the palms tight together above the head, squeeze the palms tight together. Do not lace your fingers together, do not ask for that. Straighten the arms, squeeze the elbows towards the ears as best you can. See what shows up there. And then check in what else started to work. Did you lose something somewhere? Did you start gripping something somewhere else? What? Oh, out there. Interlace your fingers, turn your palms up to the ceiling. Squeeze the elbows towards the head. Stretch the arms long. Make some length in those arms. So when you take a breath, you can feel the joint shift and move. Taking a nice deep breath in, slow breath out. And then check in. What changed? Are you gripping somewhere else? Are you pushing something somewhere? Is there effort or force happening that you feel like you have to do instead of just working some of the base or structure stuff? Can you simplify it and put yourself in the role of the student who's listening and learning to their body rather than the one that is, I already know it all and I'm good, right? My teacher, Gabriel, told me a story once that, you know, the student went to find this great teacher, climbed a mountain to him. He went to the teacher and said, please, wise teacher, teach me something. And then before the teacher could even go on, the student went on to justify why he was asking that. He talked about how everything he had read, all the other teachers he had studied with. And the master said, fine, come and have tea with me. And he has, you know, the student kept going on about everything how worthy he was or how much he knew and everything. And the teacher just kept pouring tea into his cup as he talked until the tea spilled out. And the student got upset, jumped up and said, what? You're supposed to be this great enlightened one. How could you not see that my cup was already full and it spilled on my lap? And the teacher said, you're like your cup. You're already so full, there's no room for me to give. So can you just take one more breath for this next, or two more breaths for this next moment or two, and feel where you're already trying to push or force something into this rather than calves together, thighs the block, squeeze the glutes, stretch the arms up with the palms turned up. Can you back off of all this other stuff and then feel your body just in that and then see what's wrong or what's right or what makes you happy or makes you sad? Because the external teacher, my role is to help your internal teacher talk to you better or you to listen to them. So check in with that. Is one elbow want to bend? Look at your hands, look at your elbows. Learn something about your body in this pose without you trying to force, manipulate, or perform all the other parts. Bring the arms down, take the block out. Stand nice and wide on your yoga mat. Put your block behind your right heel. Turn your right toes out towards the end of your mat. Turn your left toes in slightly. Stretch the arms wide, both legs straight. Utthita Trikonasana, stretch out over your right leg with the right arm. Shifting your right hip towards the left, your upper body stretching long over the right leg. And when you've gone as far as you can with the right hand, take your right hand to the block, take your left hand up. To whatever degree your hand is on that block on the outside of the foot. So it's not complex. Try to stand wider. So this is just giving you a chance to get into the pose. This is a pose many of you have done dozens and dozens and dozens of times. Aaron Golden, stand wider. Glenda, stand wider. There you go. Open your guys' face up. So you've done this pose a bunch. So check in real quick what you're already trying to do that may be your habit or that you feel like you have to do. I said just keep both legs long, right hand on the block, left hand up in the sky. So where's your neck? Where's your tongue? Where's your toes? Are you gripping or fighting somewhere? Right? So now, let go of that other stuff. Push the right index finger into the block. See how that changes things. Lets your chest lift a little bit. You may not have noticed that. You may not have noticed your finger had that kind of power or action because you're pushing your chest out. You're working your back with your neck. So now that you've got that index finger pushing down, take a breath, see what changes for you, and where else you're trying to make it up. I'm not worried about having perfect students. I'm worried about giving the best I can to my students and the students hearing themselves. So as you feel your body into this pose with just the simple instruction, take a few breaths in and make sure you're getting what you want or need out of this. And if your thought is, well, I want to stretch my hamstring, this is stretching my hip, that's fine, the class isn't over. But can you hear your body in it? Can you feel your feet? Can you feel your legs being active? And can you feel where you're overworking and where nothing's happening at all? And you'll know that if you're overperforming something, if you're doing something you feel like you have to do instead of want or need to do, it's when you can't stop doing it when you first recognize it, right? I've worked with a lot of you before in person, right? I might come by and put my hand on your ribs and push your ribs down and then push right back up. So can you stretch your ribs long? If you can't, that means you're probably gripping, forcing them, right? So check in. Can you move every little part of yourself, even just a little wiggle, so you can feel yourself in the whole body in this pose? And if you can't somewhere, that's where you're probably gripped up and forcing it. That's where you're performing, even if you don't know it. Exhale, bring your body up. Switch sides. Turn your left toes out, right toes in. Left toes turned out, right toes turned in. Stretch your arms out. Lengthen arms. Shift your left hip to the right. Stretch your upper body over the left leg. Go long. Aaron, stand wider. Chaya, stand wider. Stacy, wider. Thank you. Karen, wider. Are you all renting your yoga mats by the inch? Take your hand to the block, right arm up, and then check in with yourself. Each side is different. What's gripping? Keep both legs long. Stretch your chest out. Roll your right ribs and arm up. That's the instructions. That's the simple formula of the pose. Then let's remove a lot of all the other stuff. Check in with what else you're trying to do. What other instructions are running through your head? What other things that you were told by this teacher and that teacher that you have to do are running through your head? You're not the same student you were last week. You're not the same person you were last month, last year, or whenever you started your practice. Today is a new day where you get to really listen to the teacher that's outside of you and the teacher that's inside of you. So take a breath. And the thing this teacher is going to offer is press your left index finger into the block. And then what I said, can you wiggle can you feel the muscle? Can you feel stuff shift and move a little bit? And feel that you're getting something you want or need out of this. Because if you can't feel something move or shift a little, like your hip can't move, your back can't move, neck, shoulders, you're locked up. That's a performative piece. One of the things that I, as a teacher, have found some enjoyment in, let's say, is upsetting the status quo of poses, right? Because I'm not interested in someone performing their practice for me. I'm interested in sharing and someone learning their practice, like I share with all of you. So, you know, that's why I mess up how you all think of poses all the time, or how someone else taught it, or whatever. There's lots of ways to look and learn and listen to yourself. So deep breath. So if you haven't figured it out, it's like long holds, because it's only after the first 30 seconds to a minute you really start to feel where stuff starts to fight, where stuff starts to want to, you know, get into old habits, come back, old performances come back, or you really figure out, oh, I was really tightening or holding here. Take a nice deep breath. Can you relax those parts that don't need to work? Keep both legs long and active, stretching your chest out, rolling your right ribs up. Push your left index finger into the block. Exhale, slowly up you come. Yeah, not bad. Turn your left toes in, turn your right toes out, move your block. Move. He's just performing. Left toes in, right toes out. Arms wide. Simpler than even Utthita. Bend the right knee. Warrior two for a moment. Right? You've all done this pose with me even like weeks ago. We detailed this pose out for hours. We're not going to do it. So check in with your body. Can you bend the right knee so the right knee is above the heel and both feet are pressing down into the floor? Can you pick your spine up as your hips drop? That's all that I'm going to offer. The only other thing I want to offer is, where are you fighting and where are you pushing because you think it's right? And this one, I'm going to offer a little thing. Are your arms so tired and your neck getting tired from holding your arms up that you think you have to because that's what the teacher expects of you? I don't care if you bring your arms down because you're hurting or you're tired or your neck's out of whack. You have to learn how to modify to get the action. So what is it in holding the arms up that creates the benefit in this pose? The chest opens, the shoulders tone, strengthen, the arms get stronger, the back opens. So how can you do that if your shoulder and neck are tired, your back hurts? Interlace your fingers behind your head. Can you start to create the same effect, but subvert the old have to and make it a want or need? I need to interlace my fingers behind my head so I can hold the pose longer and make myself stronger and more flexible and feel better. Rather than, I have to hold my arms out, or the teacher's going to come by and grump at me, or Dustin's going to yell at me over Zoom. Right? That's where holding these poses a little longer, I think, is a hidden benefit of how the Iyengar system encourages us to look at this, because you really don't know how to hear yourself until it's after a while, right? We do that with our bodies all the time. Right? How long have we all ignored some level of pain or discomfort until it was too much and we just had to deal with it? I do. Straighten the right leg, turn the toes in, turn the left toes out. We'll speed it up a little bit after this side. Turn the left toes out. Stretch your arms wide. Bend your left knee. Push both feet into the floor. Left heel or left knee above left heel. Arms long. So start to work the pose. And let the pose work on you. Breathe into it. So check in. Are you digging your toes into the mat? Because that's just a thing you don't even recognize you do. I said push the whole foot down, not just your toes. You can push your toes down, but you have to have the same pressure through the whole rest of the foot. It's very challenging. Can you drop let your hips come down on the back and front and lift your spine up, and then breathe into it. Check in with yourself. Is there a need this is fulfilling? Is there something you want out of doing this? So you get a different reason to be on this mat other than I have to. You have to put your hands behind your head so you can keep the pose, so you can hold it, so you can get what you want out of it. Good. The benefits of yoga do not come from getting to a perfect place in the pose, but just by being you in the pose. not a perfect performer of the pose. There's not a point in which any one person does downward dog so beautifully, I hand them the like download code to enlightenment. Oh, yeah. All right, straighten the left leg. Turn the left toes in. Turn your right toes out. Speed it up a little. Bend the right knee, stretch your arms wide. Just for a moment, stretch your left arm out in front of you. Turn your palm to face in towards the center line of your body. And then stretch your arm straight up. Stretch it up nice and tall. Lift that left rib cage. From your left hip up through your left fingertips, ascend. And now take your right hand onto the block, keeping your right knee bent. Stretch that left arm the whole time you're going down into it. Different way to get into it. Did it change how you feel in it? We didn't do it the other way before, but now you can draw on your past experience. The right knee bent. Ask yourself to do the same things we did in Warrior 2. Press both feet down. Right knee over right heel. And the only thing different now is to stretch from your left hip up through your fingertips long alongside the body. And then take that few moments, that few breaths. Check in where you're doing stuff. It's not that you can or cannot move. If you can move it, great. Then you're not foisting. You're not doing it because you have to. But check in. Like, can you wiggle something? Can you move stuff? Not just your fingers and your toes, but check. Can you flex or unflex your thighs? Can you flex and unflex your glutes, your ribs, your back? Can you move and have access to all of your body in the pose? It doesn't mean you come out of the pose and shake like a dog, getting out of the shower, or a bath. But stretch the arms long, trying to make sure that you can put all of yourself, you can adjust this for you. Now stretch your elbow. Take a few breaths. Exhale, keep the knee bent, bring the body up. Switch sides, right toes in, left toes out. Turn your left toes out, bend your left knee. Stretch the arms wide if you can. If you need to have the hands behind your head, you can. Stretch your right arm out in front of you, palm facing in towards the center line of your body. Stretch the arm up. Stretch from that right side of the body. Before you even go down into the pose, get that length. Feel what that is. Feel how open that is, and you can move that. And then exhale, take the hand down to the block with the knee bent. Right arm still extends. To keep it in line with your ear. Don't let your arm float off to the sky away from your ear. That's not what I just taught. Bend the knee. Right arm. No. Front. Up. Bend the knee. Keep that arm like an inch away from the head and just stretch it longer. A few deep breaths. Left knee above the left heel, pushing both feet down, stretching that right side long. Take a few breaths into that. Don't try to overdo every other area. But if you feel like there's something you need to do for your body to create space or adjustment or movement so you can get what you need instead of perform what you think is right, you do it. Can you wiggle stuff? Can you move stuff? Can you engage stuff? Let it go. Let stuff that's not engaged, engage it. Do you have control of you? Because yoga is supposed to be about empowerment in some ways of you. Exhale, bring your body up. Turn your left toes in, turn your right toes out. Last standing pose. Turn your left toes in deeper than normal, even shortening your stance a little bit if you have to. Both hands on the hips. Rotate the torso to face out over the right leg. Lean forward, taking your chest out over your right thigh. Take your left hand onto the block, either on the outside of your right foot or it can be on the inside of your right foot. Right hand still stays on the hip. I don't need to go anywhere else. So we're going to go revolve triangle, but already notice I say that it's not an easy pose. How much stuff's already starting to grip? We're halfway there. We only have the twist to add, but check in with yourself. Can you keep pushing the feet down? Can you keep the legs long? and your left hand on the block. That's all I've asked for. Before you start twisting, check in with all the other stuff that's trying to overdo. Like, you know, are your feet too far apart that you can't keep your balance because you thought that's what you have to do? That's what you think the advanced form of the pose is? It's not. It said you could narrow your stance. Can you explore what it is for you to get out of these poses? You might be the person that discovers the perfect form of it because your body needed you to narrow or to widen. Rotate your right ribs, even though there is no perfect form of it. Pull your right ribs up, twist your left ribs towards the right thigh. And just any level of twist. But even the twist becomes performative. You think, oh, I have to twist really hard to get the most benefit out of this pose. Not true. Even just your left hand on your block and your right hand on your hip is a twist. The twisting you do from your trunk and core is you adding it, and then you have to check in. Can I still engage, unengage? Can I wiggle or move every other part? Am I still in control of me? I'm not surrendering all of my power or all of who I am in an unsafe way. If you need to turn your block up higher so you can bring more of you into it, you do that, not force. Take another deep breath or two. Move the rib cage, rotate it if you can, keep the legs in it. All right, up you come. Switch sides. Left toes out, right toes in. Hands on the hips. Rotate your pelvis around so your upper body faces out over your left leg. Stretch your upper body out over the left thigh. Once you've twisted your ribs to face that way, and then stretch out evenly, left and right side of the chest. Take your right hand to the block. Block is either on the outside of your foot or it can be on the inside if you need for balance. Lengthen your legs, push down through the feet. Everything that you've been asking your body to do. As you've all heard me say before, give yourself what you need to get what you want. Great. But there's been lots of cases in my life where I felt like I had to go to class, I had to do the thing I didn't want to. And ultimately, it just soured me, even on my own yoga practice at points. I never quit, but you know. We only got the one life right now to live. Reincarnation is a different one. So can you, in this work, in this practice that it's something that you came and showed up to do, this is something you want or need. Rotate your ribs. And can you let go of that part of you that is trying to be perfect or perform what you think is right or need just because someone told it is, and put yourself into it and find something in it that's not the teacher giving it to you. It may be a pose adjustment. You may feel like, oh, if I flex this, it relieves that. If I move this, it gives that. Or you just may be happy in it. No teacher gives you happiness. Deep breath. Check in with all your body. If there's a part of you that's miserable, there's a good chance that's a little deeper realization that there may be some other part of you that's unhappy too. Your hips cranky, part of your mind is too. So can you modify it? Can you relax the hip? Can you let go of the tension points? Even if that means not twisting or forcing as hard, so you can be in it. All right, exhale, up you go. Very nice. You all right? Turn your toes forward. Grab a bolster or a block or something to sit on and have a seat. So have a seat, stretch both legs wide. active Konasana. Take the fingertips just behind you onto the bolster or the block or whatever you need to lift your spine up nice and tall. And then instead of, you know, we've talked about pointing the foot and stretching the heel into it. If you can do that, great. Just flex your thighs. Do not push your knees down. Flex your thighs. And how much can you not push your spine forward? Lean your weight back ever so slightly, and it's going to feel weird. So you feel like your bottom ribs widen and lift a little bit. So everyone lean forward a little bit. Feel how they kind of narrow in here at the bottom. And now, with your hands on the blocks, legs active, just lean back until you feel how your bottom ribs will kind of flare out and lift up. Feel that? That's where your spine is stacked correctly. And it's not bending your shoulders back. It's not this, right? It's your whole body. You're up, so you come forward, and then you just kind of lean back, and there'll be a release that happens somewhere right here, just below the breast, right in those bottom ribs, where you can take a real deep breath. That tells me that your core muscles are helping pick your spine up. And just work that. And then breathe into it. And then see, you know, what's easy, what's hard. Were you already performing? Is the tongue on the roof of your mouth? Are you gripping in the glutes or in the knees? Is one glute firing and the other can't? You invite that one that's out of it into it and the one that's in it out of it. Can you feel the areas that are working really hard, not just muscularly to work this, but the areas that are tight, and can you invite them to relax? As part of this is a mental game. There are sects of meditative practitioners that work their whole life to master the mind's control over the body and how it can relax and disconnect from pain or change the physical form. Where a lot of the stories of mysticism comes out of. So, but just even here, can you make this thing not about, I have to push so hard, I have no choice. If you have to think it's a have to, no. And that's a hard thing to do. It can often bring up a lot of emotional stuff. Take a nice deep breath in. Take the arms out. Lean forward just a couple inches, but try to keep that flare of the rib cage wide. Feel where that rib cage was flared out. Lean forward, but don't let it narrow or suck in. That would be your spine pulling down. Even if you only go half an inch forward just for a second, feel that openness and that breath in your lower rib cage. If you feel like you lost it, if it crimped in here, those bottom ribs crimped in, go back, press your hands down, relift, right? Don't hold it like trying to overperform. Good, Micah, you're not over leaning. Great, man. If your arms are tired, and release your fingers behind your head, right? You're still going for the open chest. So this can give you what you need so you can get the wants out of the pose. It's no different than using a prop. Exhale, sit up. Bring your legs in front of you. Take one hand to the inside of each knee. Pick your knees up. Bring your feet together and your knees wide, Baddha Konasana. Heels touching, big toe joints touching. Pull your heel close to the groin. Push the sole of the foot tight together. So we're going to just do some seated poses for the remainder of our time. You know, seated poses can be challenging more than standing poses. So as you push the feet firm together, notice how your ribs came forward and that bottom of the rib cage kind of pinched in. You lost some of your breath. So take your hands back behind you and go for that lift again, and then just lean back ever so slightly. You're going to be surprised about how so many of us are tilted forward like this, thinking we're straight, when straight is way back here and what's going to feel like a slouch. That's the overaction of the back trying to compensate for ergonomic chairs, like shoving our spines forward really hard, actually. Yeah, we all go. So lean back just so you feel the flaring of the rib cage. It spreads. Mr. Angar would say the bottom of the rib cage opens like tiger's claws. You know, if you ever see a cat or a tiger when they bring their claws out, everything spreads. So the rib cage spreads the same way. That tells me and tells you the core is lifting your body. You're off the spine. You can breathe deeper. Right? Wouldn't we all just like some more room to breathe instead of the pressure of the world on us? So lifted. Check in. Can you wiggle and move everything? Tongue, roof, jaw, neck, shoulders, armpit. Can you feel and have control or access to all of your body? Because if you're doing yoga poses that make you feel locked off to your body, that's performative. Or at least I am. And someone probably has a better philosophy or better way to talk about this, but this is what I got. And just go for that same lift. Can you keep that flared open rib cage? Now take your hands off the block to the hands in front of you. Still spread tiger's clawed out, tiger's clawed ribs, and just lean forward. Start to go forward with it. Push your feet together. Your pelvis will tilt, and then your back may even start to round a little bit, and that's fine. But can you still feel that lift and that openness to the rib cage, and take a few breaths into it? And then when you've gone as far as you feel like you want to go, your groin may be stretching, your back, your hips, take your hands just onto the floor in front of you. Nice and lifted, and then breathe into it. And then notice how the back spine came forward again. Lift your front body to your back body. So the back is as wide as your front, and you can let those ribs open. The space between them is called intercostal muscle is moving your rib cage. It's a scientific word. And then check in with your breath. Can the practice be so much more meditative and not just about how intense the teacher is making it, right? Or how charismatic the teacher is, or how bad or good their jokes are, right? I've spent a lot of time away from my teachers, and that was hard for me because I had to kind of, I kept trying to perform for myself, and I hurt myself. And I'd be mad at myself if I didn't perform hard enough. And then I had to figure out how to give myself what I wanted and needed with the practice. Good. Exhale, up you come. Very nice. Not too bad. Stretch your right leg straight out in front of you. Your left knee will stay bent. Take both hands. Right hand grabs your left heel. Left hand grabs the left knee. Pull the shin up towards your chest bone. Yeah. So yeah, if you can wrap the arms around the leg, great. But if you just need to hold on to the leg, one arm on each end of your shin, the ankle knee area, that's fine. Or you can do the wraparound. That's okay. And then notice how much you leaned back, how much you leaned forward. Everybody lean forward just a little bit. Let your back slouch. Pull your shin up, not just towards your chest, but up towards your chin. So the knee kind of unbends a little bit. And then lean to your right hip. And now pick your spine up. It's going to be harder on one side. You're going to feel like you're falling to your right. But for most of us, and for myself, I notice I lean and collapse. I lean into my left hip on this, and my right hip's off the bolster. So, good modification. Give yourself what you need, right? And now just try to lift your spine up from there. And even if you have to lean back a little bit to feel the ribs open, right? You know what that felt like? Lean back, bring your leg with you and lean back a little. Feel those ribs lift, and then try to sit upright. So you're going to learn to pick your hip and leg up with your back. So it's a back to forth action. You know, forward to bring the leg into the stretch, lean back to bring your spine ribs into it, and then kind of find that center point where both work. It's like you're trying to mediate tightness. Your hips tight, your back's tight. And your arms are tired. So you gotta kind of work it all. Overworking one is not going to make the other give up. It's true. And just hold and breathe. Good job, Glenda. Keep going. Nice, Karen. I love the people that have their foot right up against the camera. It's like, wow. You all moisturized? Great looking feet. 17 years of teaching. I've looked at, or no, 15 years. It's 14 years to teach, 17 years of practice. Like looked at a lot of feet. All right, a few more seconds. Lean back, let the chest lift, let the ribs flare out, lean forward, pull the leg into it, and try to find that center point where they can both do it. And then check in. What's gripping, what's not gripping? Can you wiggle or bring all of yourself into it? Or are you performing? Well, I used to say this in a way of, can you walk out of this class feeling like you can go home and fail happily and not be upset that teacher's not there to make you have a quote unquote perfect practice? All right, leg down, switch sides. Bend your right knee, use your hands to pull your knee up and grab it, pull it in. Left hand grabs right heel, right hand, right knee. And I'm gonna say, this is not easy. I've tried many different ways to help students feel comfortable in their own practice or feel confident, right? How many handouts have you ever taken home from a yoga class? How many, you know, the infinite number of yoga stuff that's on the internet you could go follow and watch. Do you always? Probably not, because one, there's a thing about trust. You got to trust the teacher. But some of you, including myself, we've practiced for some years. And even if you haven't practiced for years, you probably know down dog. Do you do it every day? Maybe not. That's a trust thing. So when you're in this pose, build trust with your body, making sure you're giving yourself something you need and want. So you build a connection to it that's not just the teacher's yelling at me and I'm paid to be here. Lean forward a little bit to pick the shin up towards the chin, so you're really kind of like unbending the knee, and then lean back so you can get the ribs to open. Lean back. And then pick your spine up and then bring your body back to what you feel like is center, so both parts are working together. Couple deep breaths. All right, leg down. All right, Go Mukhasana. So you're going to come onto your hands and knees. If you watch Tristan for a second, I know most of you do this, but I just want to make sure we're all on the same track. I would have a block to sit on, or two if you're very tight in your hips. So have both your blocks nearby, just to your right of your legs. Come onto the hands and knees, and you're going to cross your right knee behind your left knee. You're going to cross your right knee behind your left knee, not just your shin, cross the whole leg to the other side. So one knee has crossed all the way to the other side of the other knee. Take your feet wide away from each other, and then walk your hands back so your hips are going to sit on the floor with the knees stacked. Tristan can sit on the floor pretty easily, but if do you feel some tightness or strain in one hip or the other, or in the quad? Yeah, can you relax it? No, so sit on something. So joiner. So left leg will be on top of right leg. If when you get into the pose, you feel like a grip anywhere in the body, and you can't just immediately kind of relax it and feel it release. And I don't just mean the stretch, you let the tension go, the fight go, right? The performative of it. You got to sit up higher. Sometimes we cognitively perform like, oh, I'm going to sit on the floor because that's what a good student does. I'm not getting the props. That's what Dustin used to think, especially about restorative poses. So sitting here in Gomu, one knee stacked on top of the other as best you can. And if one knee is way up high and the other's down low, that's okay. Just try to balance your hips out by sitting on blocks, blankets, pets, whatever, couches. No. Your feet do not come close to the body right out the gate. They kind of stay a little wide in the beginning, and then over time they'll come in closer. That was the question Tristan asked. Do they come closer, stay out? There's a couple different ways of getting into this pose to teach two different things. We came in the way where the feet tend to go wider, which is easier on the hip. So just sit here for a moment and then check in with your hips. One hip pressing harder into the block than the other. Can you relax that hip that's higher to drop down? Do you have another block behind you or something you can put your hands into and lean back just enough to lift your chest up to feel those ribs open? And then with those open ribs, keep them open and just kind of sit into the pose. So you're going for that open. So it's not you're pushing your hands into the block to push your ribs out. You're leaning into the block so you can lift your ribs up higher, not out, up. They'll flare out if they go up, like an umbrella opening. You push the umbrella up, it flares out. You don't push the umbrella out and it goes up. Just let the stretch happen. Take your right hand to your left knee. Keep that alignment where the ribs aren't too far forward, too far back as best you can. Twist to your left. Left hand can still go into something behind you to help keep you honest and lifted. So you feel the rib cage open. So you're being a screw up, not a screw down. Don't screw down on your spine. Untwist. Come forward onto the hands and knees, switch your legs. Now we're not twisting to the right. So now with your right knee, you're going to cross your left knee behind you. So your right knee will be on top when you sit down. So from the hands and knees, cross your left knee behind, take your legs wide, sit back. Very close to the Good. Same question. Whatever height you need to be to feel like you can relax into the pose. You sit in it. And then you feel one hip. Is it higher or lower? The higher hip, can you let it relax down? If not, my teacher would say you got to sit higher. Mr. Ingar would use like these little cheese cutting boards that were like half an inch thick, and you would just keep adding or removing those till you got the right height. We don't have all that, but that's the idea. Instead of forcing yourself, performing the pose, can you really do the pose, which is meeting your needs and wants? Use the other block behind you or something behind you to lift. Don't just use the block. Lift. Don't push forward. Lean back a little bit and lift, and feel like the umbrella being, the base of the umbrella being pushed up, and how the spines push the fabric out. That's your rib cage. As you get the spine lifted correctly, the ribs flare open. Keep them open. And then if you can take your hands off the floor while keeping your ribs open and your spine from leaning forward or back, do it. It's not easy because we all have these habits where we want to push hard one way or the other. That's the performative stuff, but breathe. It's a great pose to sit in for long periods of time when you're stuck at home. Watch a movie like this. Very short movie. Take your left hand to your right knee, right finger stay behind you. Stay with that lift. Don't push the spine one way or the other. Keep it lifted and then just rotate to the right. Don't push so hard you feel like something grips, because that's not giving yourself anything. But you only kind of go just that enough. There's the nice lifted, rotated openness. The ribs are flared out. You can breathe super deep. And sure, it may not be as intense, but no one ever said it had to be so intense that you had to suffer through it. I mean, lots of teachers have said that over time, but maybe that's not what you need today. The practice can change, not just with each teacher, but with each day that you need it to give you something. You deep breaths. Untwist. Come forward, take your legs out of the pose. Take your blocks. You're going to take one block tall, the other block on edge, about 6 to 8 inches away from each other. You're going to sit on the floor, shoulder blades, in the middle of the shoulder blades, not up here on your top of the joint, but the blades in the mid of the back, mid upper back, goes on the edge block, the base of the skull on the top block. Everyone lay back, let your arms relax out. Eyes closed, come away from the roof of the mouth. Take your glasses off. There's nothing to see outside. Your journey's been an inward one. You've polished your own lenses of your own inner perception. And just start taking those few breaths. Connect to you. Can each breath be like all the others, or the practice itself? You let each breath give you something you need and want. Can we actively say we want to take in energy, life, and coolness? And that we want to give away our warmth and those things that no longer serve us, but might be good for someone or something else in the world, right? The scientific idea of, breathing. We take in oxygen, it becomes carbon dioxide. It's no good to us, but it's for plants, it's for other things. Can we actively be aware of the process that our living is that we are an intrinsic part of all things around us? That even though we may not be as physically connected to each other in this moment, we can be as connected to the greater world, which is connected to everyone else. That each of our inhales and exhales nourishes life around us, and so that life supports us. So even though I can't be there to give you a hug or that kind hug, that handshake or whatever it is, that physical connect, can you, with each inhale, exhale, take in and give back, so that you're a part of the same process, the same life as everyone else. Let each breath in be a need and a want. Maybe that's something that I don't even perceive or know, or no one else will perceive and know. And each breath in, enrich you, encourage you, elevate you so you're powerful today, tomorrow, or even to sustain you while you're sad or afraid. So you don't have to just perform being someone or something. that you're just into the practice of being you. And rest for a few moments and enjoy the fruits of your yogic practice. Slowly increase the depth of your breathing. And as you come back, consciousness, don't just push away all that stuff and let everything else that you need, that needs to happen, come back in, or that you quote unquote have to do, rush back. But can you let yourself take away maybe one small part of this is that each thing that you do, recognize that there's neither a want in doing this and what it gives you. So that in each moment of it, not just the finished product or the end result, but in the moment of you doing it, you're doing it in such a way that each part of it nourishes you, enriches you, and ultimately recognize how it does that to the world around you. Bend your knees, roll your body to the right side, press your palms into the floor, exhale slowly up you come. Take a nice deep breath in. Exhale, palms together, and until we meet again, namaste. All right. Any questions before I go? You can just unmute yourself if you want to ask. If not, thank you all for being here. You have a good weekend. You know, got to go. Micah, Karen, Stacy, Glenda, Christy, Sayu, Sri, Sita, hi. Can't see if Fresh is there with you, but I hope he's well. Pratima, Chaya, Ryan, Aaron, Kaylin. The thing just the chat shifted. I think I lost my rhythm. Rachel, so I can see. All right, one other quick thing is if you can offer anything to Austin Yoga Tree for putting all this stuff on, it would be greatly appreciated, right? Everyone's having a hard time, but if you can't, it's okay. You're still going to get to come to class. But if you can offer, $5, $10 a class or whatever, or buy a class pack on the website, it will all help keep this going and support through, right? Right. But if you can't, no one's going to tell you not to come to class, especially me. You all know that. So thank you all so much. Any questions though? I know I'm yammering a lot. None? Great. I did my job right. You're all speechless. Have a good night. Namaste. Bye-bye.
Good night, guys.